Oh dear.
It's recording.
Didn't say so.
Oh,
Okay. Is everybody on Zoom? Welcome, people. Please join me in pledge allegiance. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, folks. Signature folder. It was the selectmen's minutes. I make a motion to approve them for January 28th.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now I'll move to, I propose to accept the minutes of the non-public meeting for June 28th. Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
And in the signature folder, there was also a letter of agreement for HEB for the landfill monitor. I make a motion to approve the manifest in the amount of $105,384.25.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. And also in the signature folder, there was 2 geotax that we signed for collection taxes. Forget those. In the mail folder, there was a notice of violation from the ZEO and the Green Mountain Conservation Group's watershed rules that I've got one in the mail. I don't know if everybody gets it. The administrative comments.
The IRS did a mileage increase, so employee travel for mileage has gone up from 58.5 cents to 62.5 cents. So future expense vouchers will reflect that. I gave you all a copy of the end of June forecast, and since I created that at the end of June, another portion of tax revenue has come in. Just over 80% of taxes have been paid the June bill, so it's significantly more than what you see there. And
Cool.
if you have questions, I can answer them now, but we're gonna have a work session tomorrow.
Could you rerun the budget actuals as of tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Today, so
Sure.
that we'll have everything right this month. Thank you.
Okay, and I think I have everything organized for the special town meeting. Jen Pittman came in today and we talked about what it would look like. I talked to Carol Pfister. She'll be here to make sure people who are here voting are registered voters. And I gave you copies of basically the warrant article that you will be presenting a signature on. I need to know if you want me to invoice the 3 zoning enforcement properties. We had 2 letters in the last meeting and 1 this time, and they've all been delivered and accepted via certified mail, so start charging them.
Okay.
The one for Nolan was all cleaned up already, so that's all taken care of. Let's see, there's a young woman coming in later to meet you. Joe can't be here yet, a death in the family, and so when she comes in, I'll introduce you to her, and then in the non-public that's listed, we can discuss if we're gonna move forward with her.
Okay.
All right, and I think I'm pretty, knock on wood, caught up with stuff. No wood around me. So yeah, let me know if this thing's outstanding. I have a big list of things to do. I did talk to Darlene. We have a couple of things for the auditor that needs to get done. So So I finally talked to her last night at 7, first time in 2 weeks, and she said, you know, she just doesn't know when she's gonna be able to help, so. Yeah.
Tell her we're thinking of it.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Tim and make sure I have a complete list of the, I think it's only 3 or 4 things outstanding, but I'll check with him. Yes,
Question.
Good.
Do you have a status on the audit? Are they waiting on stuff from us? Or?
yeah, that's what I was just saying, they're waiting on a couple things for us, and, it's usually a couple months after the field work. So. I'm hoping maybe another month, we'll have it before you do the, 451.
So what's missing is gonna cause it that kind of delay.
They wanted January and February of this year to be reconciled. And that's what Darlene was working on, so I actually have to go and get the information from her, bring it, and hopefully Greg can help me do that. Or since it wasn't a requirement last year, he might just waive that. And then I think there's 2 bills related to vendors that I wasn't able to locate when they were here, so I just need to rifle through the files and see if I can find them. I will update you soon on that one. That's all I have.
Okay. So,
Audrey, thank you for the easement follow-up stuff. I know that's not easy to be effective on, and I appreciate that.
Oh, it's kind of still squirrely, because that woman has to get legal proof that she can sign. Because the property's not in her name, and
Do we even know if she's gone to probate court yet? Because until the probate court puts her in executrix, she's got no authority at all. Do you know that?
no.
All right.
So there's a girlfriend involved, but I talked to her, we have a human, and we'll see how it goes. I'll call her again another day, I don't want to harass her.
And for the audience, the reason this is an important item in trying to get done is we will not be doing the Bailey Road Bridge project until we can get a signed easement based on legal counsel's recommendation. So hopefully we can get that shortly. And thank you for the digital copy of the operating plan for the transfer station.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, it was, exactly.
Did you want all those books I have in there? The manuals I referenced in my email?
Not yet,
Okay,
not yet. I need to dive through this piece of it. So knowing it's quite out of date, I have a question for my 2 other select board people. Mr.
I don't
Cahalan-
even know. we had it.
Mr. Cahalan has offered to help update that with me. In doing that, I would recommend that allow him to renew his transfer station license for $75 for another year. Because it will allow him better access to contacts instead of the DVS. If not, you can write it on our end, but I haven't got time.
Okay.
In the states
You
now,
think we can do it?
we have not paid.
If I may, I did talk to some folks at the state, and I talked to Tara Al, who was over the training stuff, so she brought it to my attention, and it's still qualified to do this. The other thing is Chuck, I know, is aware the EPA is coming out with more funding that we should be able to access. Apparently, there's considerable more money to become available for the transfer station. And in following up some conversations, and I need to talk to another individual that I've had conversations with in the past. A lot of what we've been doing has changed at the transfer station. So no matter what we do or don't do, we're going to need to update your operating. And some of that involves like the oil permitting stuff. All that stuff has changed so much that you can get it all included in the new plan. But somebody's going to need to kind of understand transfer stations to speak the language to put together an operating plan, basically. I'm just willing to help at the committee meeting. I've been a principal operator in the past, so I still hold the certification to the 18.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm just saying, it wasn't long ago, you sat here and said that you had too many things, too many irons in the fire, and that it was getting too much for you. And now you're offering to do this. And I'm afraid that with whatever else you're working on and plans and meetings and whatever, that you may not have the time to do this
Well, I just
on
cleared,
top of everything else.
I just cleared the grants that you folks wanted me to work on for $400,000 for one piece of construction that went on July 1st. And all of my work on the high watch culverts I completed as of today and forwarded that to HEB. You guys have the paperwork to be signed that will go in on the 15th is the final deadline this month. So as far as those type of items, they're done, but certainly if you guys want to write the operating plan, right ahead. Figured it was something that I'm a little more familiar with probably than the applicants. Doesn't matter to me, just off.
You have to be,
No, you don't have to be certified, but it's nice to keep the, it's continual training that you do every year. And I stay involved with the DES
so
notices.
you get a notification that your license ran out.
No, that's the 18th. I didn't bother before to bring it to your attention because I just figured it wasn't going to be
I was just saying,
that
I thought it
relevant
was
anymore,
already,
but in light of all these new grants and stuff. It's probably, you know,
Didn't the notification we got say it had
Yeah.
expired?
I'd have to look, I filed it.
Oh, that's what I thought it said.
I did too.
I talked to Tara this week. Yesterday. Still open to January 18th. Actually,
June 18th.
July,
Oh,
sorry, July, July, whatever this month is. So, but your call, no worries.
Oh,
We have to decide right now.
So let me see, out of the dozens upon dozens upon dozens of hours he's already committed writing grants, we can't cover $75.
yeah, I'm just
That-
wondering,
that's not-
you know, why you need the license
Yeah,
to continue on. But
Because you stay on the communication list coming out of DES for all the stuff that's relevant for the transfer station. And Mike's on the strategy committee with a group of other people, and part of what we decided to take on was to update the operating. So part of the strategy committee will be helping to create that updated plan. But I'd rather have him plugged into DES unless you want to be on that mailing list and handle all that stuff. I haven't got the time for it. You got volunteers that's willing to help us?
yeah, I mean, I
It's
appreciate- I
knowledgeable in your
appreciate it.
arena.
Yeah, I just
we were,
didn't know why we needed to have a, you know, licensed person.
It's primarily for the continuing education, so that you stay current with the changes that DES puts forward. You go to the training, so there's nine individual trainings that are being supported tomorrow. And if I sign up and take that, that's gonna cover these various categories, and it'll educate me on what's changes, what's
That
current.
covers you for 3 years.
It's a, I forget the number of years it's good for, it's 2, I think, but it's an annual, you have to take training courses annually to maintain.
I know.
And that's how you kind of stay in the loop, to the extent you can on what's relevant. And again, writing this is more or less separate from it, but being on the committee, looking at the long range for the transfer station, because that's gonna be significant cost looking, you know, to increase, as well as, if we can get grant funding so that we can do infrastructure projects that align with the state to move our transfer station forward and mitigate cost increases. That's all I'm looking to try and do. It's up to you guys, that really doesn't matter to me. I'm willing to help.
Well, $75 seems like a pittance to pay for all the work that's gonna be involved. We think we have a line item for the solid waste training. Yeah.
Yeah. Do
certification.
we have to make a decision right now?
Yes.
Can I say something?
No,
Or more?
yeah, we budgeted 5, we've only used 100, so it's money in there for certifications. Yeah. I don't have a problem with it.
I do. I'm not voting for it,
So I mean, if it-
if that's what you're.
I'll make a motion to pay $75 of Mike's renewal license fee for
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
those opposed?
Aye.
While we're on that subject, HEB. Moving from transfer station to HEB, the grant analysis was done. So the email I shipped out to you yesterday saying that we looking to swamp grant, I was wrong on that. It's already been submitted, it was July 1st, so all that grant paperwork has been in with that request. The iWatch grant information is due this Friday. For both of those grants, HED and Mike have completed all the grants. I've been in the loop relative to the back and forth on that. And different pieces of information on the end. The information that's needed to be signed for HED is the second piece of their contract for the analysis that they are going to be doing between now and Friday, which has to be attached to the application. And then additionally to that, it's required because it's government grant with all kinds of disclosure stuff that's boilerplate for additional $4.
And that's what we're gonna talk about. Discuss it tomorrow with the budget chair. So we get the money or something.
Okay. All right, the Dunn's memo.
I have one question. What I just heard you say is that there's what I've seen is 2 contract modifications and then 3 documents that would be required to submit things. So the 3 documents, if we were to sign those as a non-financially committed to go with the grant application, so those would still be required for Chris. The other 2 contract mods are not. So you could move forward with the 3 that aren't contract mods, the signature, and retain the 2 that are a monetary one for the budget conversation tomorrow. And we need our guns number.
So the 3 in the back,
Yeah,
okay,
the legalese ones.
yeah, I'll sign them.
The real
Talk about
fine
here.
print.
Yeah, really boring stuff.
Okay, yeah, I'll sign them and we'll talk about the other ones tomorrow.
And things I can get it tomorrow. We need to done some number 2.
Okay, let me send that to Chris.
Send it to me too.
I'll copy it. Yeah.
That's all.
Vicky?
Yeah.
Nothing? Went over the signs. I'll give you the list later.
Okay, did you see Mr. Garso's email?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay,
We didn't order any speed limit signs. Next year. The crack ceiling, I was talking to the guys, they've been there 2 days. He said, I can't believe the number of new cracks. So they've used almost a whole pallet and they haven't even finished town out, so.
We don't.
Just one, so we'll probably get another pallet. They're doing townhouse, I told them to do Green Mountain. Elm Street to the bridge, Green Mountain side of it. Snow Road, with some cracks at the bridge. And there's a few in the transfer station, Bailey Road. And I don't know if they That would probably take up another whole pallet. Anything else you prefer to do, or
No, I mean, if we just do one more pallet.
there's not many cracks on Green Mountain. The first section, phase one has got a few, but I haven't seen any in the second phase. That shouldn't take much. But I don't know if those roads good with you guys, or
No, I like the woods.
he couldn't believe the new cracks in town, so we may be looking at something in the future there. When was townhouse road done?
That was 11 through 14, three years it was base work, and the fourth
Yeah,
year
this
was
is 10 years old.
Part of, I think, what happened there, Lenny, is like you're pointing out on Green Mountain Road, that first section where we only did the base, and not a complete, made it more malleable, really, so it's crack easier. And if you've got anything on Bailey Road, that's the best built road in the town of Effingham.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it. That's
Seal it before it gets undermined, yeah, really.
okay. Green Mountain Road, they're working on that, AP, so you're aware. Get called to High Watch Road, they'll be up there. Transfer station, got their wish list. And we did went over the sign. Sure.
Mike, with the calcium chloride, we've had contracted for like 10,000 gallons of that stuff in the past, did we not?
No, it was kind of a floating thing that covers the road, and you bring in, typically if you get a full trailer, tanker load, it's 4,000 gallons. You would run, if you did every road in town except for Wilkinson Swamp in the center where basically nobody, you could run probably a little over 16,000 gallons.
So 40,000 gallons like it all the time?
40? Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't like, you might hit in a bad year, 20,000. But any planning for more than say 24,000 is kind of really out there. It's more than usual.
36,000 total, they say,
Who's saying?
all state.
Doesn't seem consistent with our previous
No.
uses.
No, it's 24.
24,000,
It was
sorry,
24,000.
Yeah.
36,000 also.
So that's 24 would be my.
Yeah.
My high end, yeah.
That's a lot, but it seems.
Well, the prices have gone up, so I mean, 24,000 gallons is $1 something a gallon now. I did give some information, I think you asked for it, Chuck, that you were having trouble getting calcium chloride. So there is another player out there who did have a lower number, lower price point this year.
Okay. That's all I've got right now. The announcement, next Wednesday at 5:30, special town meeting. To see if the town will vote to appoint board of selectmen as agents to expend from the police cruiser and equipment capital reserve fund previously established in 1990. And majority votes required. You get a cruiser that's on its last legs, and they need to replace it ASAP. And also, the office is going to be closed this coming Thursday. And I guess we'll move to JT.
Already.
Okay. And he was on text with Becca, probably Becca to let her know.
I'll give it 5 or
Yeah, 5-10 minutes or something.
So these are the stats for the first 4 months of this year. I've gone through and I've hand counted all these numbers. I haven't seen what was presented to you guys in the past, so I didn't really have a base to work off of, so I just pulled a bunch of different data points that I thought would be helpful to you. First observation, I'm definitely going to alter this, so in the future the text is a little bit bigger, so you don't need your magnifying glass. But On the right-hand side, the total calls for the month is the first number. The second number is year-to-date for each month. Following that is a breakdown by call type. Next is fire calls versus medical calls. And there is a note that some of those cross over. So like, for example, a motor vehicle accident, it's a fire and a medical response, so that counts under both. So if you total those two numbers, they would come above the total for the month. Next one is calls during our coverage hours. So provide a number and a percentage during coverage and outside of coverage. The next box is with Effingham responders and without Effingham responders. So that means if we have a call that nobody from the town responds to, that second box, you'll see that. So for January, we had 4 of those instances. Historical call data, so that's last year's numbers. So January of 21, we had 23 calls. January of 22, we had 45. And the last one is Green Mountain Treatment Center, a listing of medical calls and fire calls that were experienced in each month there. So my goal is to get these up on the website so they're accessible for everybody to review. If the board has anything additional you'd like to see me put on these each month, let me know and I will start getting them out the first time I see you each month. I'll have the prior month's numbers.
That'd be good.
It's a good format, there's more information here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a concern about putting medical and put the address in public?
So all if you look at the locations, none of them have the mailbox number on the road, they just have the road name. And I did that for confidentiality for the townspeople. I did leave like 244 High Watch, I left that number. Some of the businesses I left the numbers, but any residential structures, I took that.
The month of March, there's 2 that are kind of darkened in.
Yeah, I don't know why it printed that way, it didn't show that way on the computer,
So it doesn't mean anything, or?
it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
Can you explain what rekindle is?
So that particular instance was the Bailey Road fire. We went back to that quite a few times. Basically, it collapsed in on itself and the fire continued to burn underneath. The week that we had that fire, it was negative temperatures. It was super cold out and we couldn't get a hold of an excavator to come actually tear it apart like we normally would. We went back several times to coat that with foam and things like that to darken down that function.
That's unusual to do that many times, like a rotation, isn't it?
It is, it definitely is. And like I said, typically with a house with that much damage, we would call in an excavator and have them actually just pull it apart. That way we could cover everything with foam. Because of the temperatures and everything going on at the time, we weren't actually able to get anybody. Evans Brothers was not available to come out. So unfortunately, we had to go in with manpower and pull things apart as best we could. And that was very labor intensive. So, and even the foam was just freezing on top instead of actually penetrating like it's built to do. So that was another issue for us with that fire.
That's maybe something we can talk with Ron about, maybe if he could be on call or something like that.
That would be awesome. And I know with other departments I've worked with, that's what we've had. We've had that availability to have that at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning. If we need an excavator, we can call somebody for that. It definitely would have made our responses back there. Hopefully not at all.
Yeah, I can see it happening at times needing it, but not very often.
Right.
I'll ask him tomorrow if he'd be willing to, do something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then we can just put his number in at Carroll County Dispatch and they would just give him a call should we need him.
Okay.
Couple more things for you. Call count as of today is 236, which is 12% above where we were last year at this time. It's been pretty steady the last couple months, and every month we're seeing increases. So it doesn't look like that's going to slow down at all. Budget, as we all know, the fuel prices are skyrocketing, going crazy. We're doing the best we can with that. Again, we're 12% over where we were with calls last year, so the trucks are on the road more. I have asked all of my people, limit the driver training, limit all that stuff. Obviously, when we have someone new, we have to get them trained on the trucks, but we're keeping that to a bare bones minimum. We're not going out and just riding around in the trucks. I've asked the trucks to stay in quarters as much as we can. Obviously, we're still going to calls and things like that, but we're trying to keep that as little as possible. The SUV should be online shortly. It's just about finished up. Once that's online, we're gonna try and do a lot of our like simple medical calls and stuff with that during the day. That way, we're not taking the big trucks out unless we absolutely have to. I did get a Wex card account set up for us, and along with that, we are tax exempt, so we get a pretty good discount on the fuel. I don't know if you know, Audrey, but I don't know if police have that set up as well.
They do.
Okay, perfect. So we'll get a discount on the fuel. So I'm going to stop filling the diesel tank at the station for now. And we'll start using the Wex card because it's gonna be significantly cheaper per gallon. So.
I have a quick question on that, or note about that. They're really strict about cutting it off. It's not paid in kind.
Okay.
And I have to jump the bill for the police, and if you set it up so that the bill goes to your office,
Okay,
you need to get it to me ASAP.
I believe the bill is coming here, but I will double check on that. Last meeting, I gave you guys a resume for Kevin Romano. I apologize, I couldn't be here the last meeting. I was on a medical call here in town. Kevin Romano is a paramedic. He works for Action Ambulance. I've known Kevin for a long time. He's applied to work some shifts. He does live over in Tamworth, so he may be available for callback. Firefighter, paramedic, a ton of instructor qualifications. He's certified to teach a whole bunch of classes, so he brings in a lot of value from that aspect. He'd be willing to teach classes in-house at no charge for the department, things like that. He does want to pick up day shifts as well to help out with that. So looking for the board's approval to move forward with Kevin pending the background check.
Yeah, we got it late 2 weeks ago, so, but yeah, he looks very well qualified.
But did you say that he just wanted Fridays?
And you said he just wants to work like Fridays.
Yeah, Fridays was the day that he had asked about, and again, he does live in Tamworth, so should we have something crazy going on in town, he would get in for that, he was available as well.
Oh, he looks very well qualified.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve him,
I'll second it.
then moved and seconded, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. There we go.
All right, and last thing, we have an emergency management trailer. It's the big red trailer that sits outside the fire station.
Yeah.
Right now, it's storing some cots and things like that we would use at the school should there be a major incident in town. That trailer was actually given to the town by the Oscar Valley Mutual Aid Association. They have reached out. They are going to be decommissioning a vehicle that they have up in Conway right now with hazmat equipment in it. The vehicle itself is no longer serviceable. They're looking for a trailer to use down in this area, probably placed in Center Ossipee to service all of our departments down here for hazmat calls. They've reached out to find out if we would be willing to relinquish that trailer back to them. I have no problem with that personally. I don't believe there was any, I don't know that it was actually ever even officially signed over to the town. It was before my time, obviously, so as far as I'm aware, it still technically belongs to the OVMA. I know there was a clause that if we were to stop using it, we had to give it back to them. So I assume they continue to maintain ownership and they just gave it to us to use. I have no problem giving it back. Everybody I've talked to hasn't seen it move from the yard since we got it. So, and we have other means of delivering those supplies to the school should we need to. So, looking to see if you guys are on board with giving that back to the mutually associated.
What would be the means of getting the equipment to?
The forestry truck, the rescue truck, all those different vehicles, we could deliver the cots and things like that to the school. The cots are not in the greatest condition, having sat in that trailer for all this time either. They started to build it with things like that, so that's the other part of it. So we're gonna have to pull all that stuff out and clean it anyway and see what's still usable. I feel most of it will be with a cleaning, but storing it in the trailer is not gonna be a good long-term solution based on the mildew and everything we're seeing on it now. So
So if it goes back over there, chances are it's used more.
it's definitely, it'll have a benefit to our town as well, should we have any kind of a hazmat incident, we need to go to come out for it. So they have the truck now and we are able to use the hazmat team, but the truck doesn't run, so there's no chance the truck's coming down to town while it doesn't run. So I think it would be more beneficial to go ahead and really push it back.
Makes snowplow operator happy.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Brad don't have to shovel it out, so,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't have a problem.
I can look at the capital list and in the file to see what we have.
Yeah. I know it
Yeah.
sat out here for quite a while.
and maybe looking towards the future, we could look at putting a Connex box at the school if they'd be on board with that, and just store the equipment right there at the school. That way we don't have to move it. That might be a good solution long term. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they even have room in the school or somewhere.
I can tell you.
So I'll work on figuring the solution out long term.
Okay.
In the meantime.
It must be maybe look for an agreement or something.
I'll see what's in the file, and then we also have our Primex capital list.
Yeah. Okay. And
Oh, yeah.
that's all you got? Any questions for JP? No? Is there a reason that, I know engine one's right there at station 2, but I know when Randy first started the day shift, they used engine 3 a lot. Is there a reason to get away from that? Or?
Yeah, so there were a couple of reasons we stopped doing that. Every morning, somebody was going up to station 1 and grabbing it, driving it down to station 2 and parking it outside for the day. Part of the issue there is it takes the only piece of fire suppression from that side of town. We do have people, the Felixes especially, that live right there and would respond with that during the day in the event of a second call or something like that. So we basically took their ability to have those tools away. And the other reasoning is if we have staff in the station, having engine 1 at our disposal and using engine 1 to respond to most of these calls gives us 1,000 gallons of water and a lot more tools should we have a fire incident while we're out on medical. We have a lot more tools in our toolbox that we'd be responding with. So those were a couple of the reasons that we went with. Really looking, I started doing some math on mileage per gallon and all that stuff. And honestly, the mileage per gallon with engine 3 versus engine 1 is almost the same, believe it or not. They're really not that different. Engine 3 gets awful fuel mileage. It's like 7 to 9 miles per gallon fully loaded. So it's really not any better than the big trucks. So I don't even know if there would be a fuel savings by trying that out. We are going to try with the SUV to do some of our calls that way. I don't like going, for example, the Green Mountain Treatment Center and not bringing a fire truck with us, because then should we have a fire somewhere, we have to backtrack all the way back around the mountain to get the truck and then go back out to the fire. But we're gonna do the best we can to eliminate having the trucks.
Just a question.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yeah.
So I was surprised by the fuel mileage. I figured it'd be a little better than that.
Yeah. Surprised me.
Yeah, it's a heavy truck, that's the problem.
Yeah.
A lot of weight on that chassis.
Hey, I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming in. Rebecca?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Up here.
Whatever you want.
Up here.
So things you've been busy, I'd say.
Yeah, thanks for picking up. And we've already had 2, I'm already up to almost 10 permits in July, 2 of which are residences, so that's picking up as well. Sometimes we are overwhelmed with lots of applications for sheds and driveways and, you know, stuff like that, little additions, porch fittings. But on that particular one, residences does seem to indicate a change. And yeah, I've been busy.
I think some of these have been talked about in the past, so it's nothing's changed. I see they're still on the list.
Yeah, we knocked a couple more off this month, I think, we had knocked off the property on Green Mountain Road with the shed and cabin in the wetlands. Finally, and this one we've been carrying a while, one down on Remick Road that had a wetlands violation. They had a shoreline permit and then they violated the conditions of the shoreline permit. And I had to make sure that they had the remediation stuff in place. And I finally got word from the state that the remediation plan is in place. And so I could close that off and continue issuing permits to that property without worrying about it. And we did get all the paperwork that we needed on gentleman up here
No,
with the house that he's tearing down right on the river. We did get all these asbestos paperwork. It was a little bit confusing. Yeah, sometimes we don't get the stuff from the state as quickly as we would like. So I think there was some wires crossed there in terms of what was going on. But anyway, that's gone through and he's got his demo permit that he'll show up again when he applies for the permit for replacing the structure. He's got someone on board doing that. In fact, the person that did his shoreline, he had a shoreline permit as well because of
Yeah.
proximity to the river. The person that's doing his shoreline is also doing the septic review and the house construction. So I think the only problem with that one was that they just dragged their feet and getting stuff done. Got a couple of properties that we've got violations against, and I waited. You know, the notices were sent back in the beginning of June, but I waited a full cycle to give them until the July planning board meeting. I went to the meeting, checked with the clerk, checked with the meeting members to make sure that I had missed somewhere that they'd actually gotten their paperwork in and it was in process. But with no paperwork in, no process at all, we can proceed with filing. I'm trying to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, because sometimes communications between my office and the planning board staff and everything, we don't get stuff right away. So, but that said, I think we've got 4 properties that we've got an active notice of violation that we can start on.
and they're saying,
Your ballgame.
when those fines, people moving.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, that rather than, as we have in the past, sometimes threaten that and then go into litigation, that let's just start finding them. And might be cheaper to send out invoices than to hire the attorney. And, you know, and some of them will just get pushed back, some of them might just get someone to get their paperwork done. You know, cheaper to go hire an engineer and do a site plan application for you than to pay fines. Yeah, 20 permits this month.
Looks like you've been busy. The last one,
The backside?
any movement there or
No,
no?
No.
Nothing's changed there.
and nothing's changed. There's no official address on file. So the notice of violation was hand delivered, and there's been a couple of calls to the selectman's office about it. So the party clearly got the letter. And that's what the RSA says, that you need evidence that the parties got the letter. So even 7 days to respond.
And she called, but she left a message, never called back.
Correct, there were 2 messages about the letter she received, so in the voicemail, she acknowledged the letter. There were also 2 other calls about vehicle and general assistance, so. Yeah,
Tough situation. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I have no questions.
No, so. Good clean, you put on the clean sheet for that.
Yeah,
Well, all those permits, I mean, it does go on to page 2,
yeah.
but you know, the proportion of permits to
To
problems.
activity, yeah.
Permits to problems, we like that balance. And one thing I forgot to put on the report, I just realized is we did, the police department very kindly gave me a couple of hours to help move all the furniture around out back. So the back space is a lot more organized. The shared desk and computer is in a convenient place on what I think was the office side of the room for both the supervisors and myself and anyone else who might be out there to use. The big map case has been moved over where you can actually open the drawers without sitting on a desk, which is kind of handy. And there's room for additional file cabinet if necessary. So we've got a file cabinet row there that has one file cabinet that belongs to the planning board that's sort of not being used, it's just never been cleaned out. And then we have a file cabinet on wheels that belong to general assistance, and I don't know what's in it, but I'm not sure whether they've got a 2-foot one and a rolling file rack and a 4-foot one, and the 4-drawer one may not be necessary. So there is room to add another 4-drawer file cabinet, or the use of a 4-drawer file cabinet for another department out there if needed. And right now it looks kind of a mess because all the maps that came from back here and they're all piled on the floor, and I'm going through them and I'm doing a lot of keep or dispose, but I have got some interesting ones. We've got some diagrams for like fire stations. We've got road maps that really are the town one copies of when they moved 25, there's things like that. So I'll get those documented and stored in rolls and labeled so that if anyone's ever looking for them. At this point, I'm just trying to reduce the duplicate copies of the new zoning maps that come in every year. The whole town and zoning casino. They were in 3 or 4 different places. But that should make it easier. And then the other part of it is there's a lot of planning board maps from over the years, subdivision maps going way back that are in rolls, and I will probably just label them as such. And then if the planning board ever decides they want to go through and form some kind of system where the maps are notated in files as being available or whatever, but otherwise they were buried behind in this room back here. So a lot of maps, and we don't need them all.
Can I just
But-
ask you?
Yeah.
Number 28 permit. The reason. What, can you kind of,
Oh, the permit number 28.
yeah,
Yeah, I just actually just left a phone message with you, Beverly. And that was a case of, we do need to track when a major change is made to a property. And I was talking to Lenny about this earlier. It seems to me that it might be a good idea if we had a good conversation about some of the permit uses or permit situations where we're saying, yeah, we want you to apply for a permit, but we're gonna waive the fee. Let's say someone's shed burns down and they want to build it back up, and we actually do want to have a record in the database that it's a new shed. I mean, that's necessary in terms of how our assessor keeps track of stuff. But perhaps we feel as a town or as a select board that charging someone to do a fee for that building permit might be unfair. So I was thinking that it might be appropriate to figure out what would be the situations where I could waive the fee, but request that someone file a permit application anyway, so that we have the record of the change. And this was a case of this one happened exclusively with David, and because they come when he's in office and I'm not, because he's got more office hours.
so are you saying this is because they're having a completely different system, or
Complete,
they're just replacing what they have?
well, I think it was a completely different system. So I think it was completely different, and David, I think we had a case with David wearing the assessor's hat and the field official's hat at the same time. And, you know, we're trying to iron that out, because he's only been working as well as for less than a year now. Maybe I'm going to get back to it.
So what you're saying is like if they had system A and they're replacing it with a system A, they don't need a permit.
I don't
But if
know,
they are
I would
replacing
prefer to
it
have
with,
all the information, and this was a case where they filled out an application and left the check and everything outside of my office hours, and I'd like to see if we can't not have that happen again, but if it's a complex question about whether they need a permit or not, or whether they need to pay or not, that I make the decision, David does. So that's
Okay.
the only thing.
all right,
Because, you know, he has reasons as a tax assessor to feel like the information is needed, and I respect that. But ultimately, the decision should be mine as the zoning officer.
I was gonna say, but when he's going out doing zoning, you just stick to zoning.
Well, yeah, but you know, it's to our huge advantage to have it here 4 days a week to answer questions or whatever when I'm not in the office. It's a little bit of give and take, a little tussle here to trying to figure out. You know, I mean, he's totally agreeable to working for me. There's no problem there. It's just that maybe sometimes he forgets that he's working for me. So, you know, we're working that out. So I'll have a conversation with him about when I would prefer that he pass it
Yeah.
back to me for decision making. And then you guys
Exactly.
put your heads together and think about,
Once you have that conversation, just do a couple bullet points to the email and sign. So there's a reference. I usually leave it,
okay,
kind of a summary of the conversation with the folks. And that way, if it has to refer to that, it's something like-
and I really do think, I mean, I have in the past at my own discretion waived a permit fee without even checking back with you guys, and that's probably, you know, not something that the statute even addresses. But, you know, it might be something that we want to codify a little bit as to, you know, what type of activity doesn't actually need. And
In that case, I
A fee.
don't think that needed 150.
no, yeah, and again,
Really?
having changed the permit, but I did call, I left the gentleman a message. I understood that he was concerned. I said that if he felt that it was burdensome, that I would check with the board of selectmen and see if we could refund his fee. I don't know how you feel about that. But if you feel that that was excessive, that would have been a case where, yes, you know, I would say, with Dave by my side, yes, I want them to fill out a permit. I don't think that's too much to ask, but perhaps this is the perfect case to say,
The way that,
do the permit, but we're not going to charge you a fee.
Basically, a repair in most cases.
Right.
Mm.
Well, and it's the extent of the repair. I mean, you know, if you've got the entire, you know, if you redo a room, you know, you don't need a building permit. If you got your kitchen and put in all new appliances and cabinets and all new plumbing and everything, you actually should have a building permit because it's a total redo. And the way the regulations are written, the alteration part of it would apply. And we may not all agree on this. I mean, I understand that we don't all agree on it, which is why I go back to what it says in the zoning. Yeah. But the fees are set by you. Fees are set by us. So we can make adjustment on those lines. I mean, we can even make, you know, hardship adjustments if you felt that you wanted to do that. You know, set up some kind of formula where I would send something over to you and say, this is X, Y, or Z. But generally, I don't think our fees are.
Have you talked with David? Future, bring it to us if it has to come to us. But I mean, for him, just going out and telling somebody, no, you can't do that without a permit. It's,
But I think that, you know,
for certain things.
yeah, I'm not surprised that we have
Yeah.
works like this.
Yeah.
He brings a wealth of knowledge to the job, and much as he wants to be helpful, you know, some people can't check all the other knowledge they have about something else. in the board. But sometimes it's hard to compartmentalize what applies to this part of the job and what applies to another part of the job. I have to. discuss about it.
Okay.
And I'll work on that.
Keep up the good work.
You know, busy.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. I'm gonna go out the back door, hope that I can dodge the rain. That's what's going.
Good luck.
Yeah, get Ski first.
Yeah, I locked it. I realized as I slammed the door behind me, I locked it. I thought, oh, I locked it. There's a request. Maybe we could get a little hat for that. What's known in my building French trained as a pig snout. So that you could stand on the top level of the landing to unlock the door and not be in the rain.
Get permit.
Put 2 or 3 umbrellas right here at the back door, and 2 or 3 umbrellas out there, so you can use one to go out when you come back.
Yeah, and you've got your folder in one hand, your briefcase in the other, your keys in the third, and the umbrella in the fourth. I mean, yeah, I can understand.
Thank you very much.
Do that.
Open it up to public comment. Anybody has anything, keep it civil. Please. Nikki?
Just a reminder that on the 23rd, we will be having our Effingham Neighborhood Watch first meeting with the police department, and I believe maybe the fire department will show up and teach us all how to do a proper description of anything that's going on in town, and also answer questions about stuff going on and what people are concerned about.
Time and place.
Pardon me?
Time and place.
2 o'clock here at the town hall.
Just let me know I'm unable to, I already had prior commitments,
Okay.
family function.
That it?
That's it.
Mike?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring something up because of the grant stuff that I've been going through, and since JT's in the room, this is great for you to have on your radar. In 2018, we did the emergency management plan, so in 23 next year, that'll be coming up, and Randy used to take the lead on that. And somehow we got dropped off the radar, and there's been changes over at the hazardous mitigation, FEMA. So maybe personnel have changed there as well, and that was on the 24 schedule. But that's very important for grant writing for infrastructure. So those 2 things, and the select board obviously plays a role in involved in that. I just thought I'd mention it. And on the transfer station and stuff, one of the things with that operating plan is that at the point in time when we submit that, we can withdraw the old permit, which is called a limited permit. The new permits are a standard permit, and it's a lot more wide open, covers a lot more refuge, so things have updated, so it's a little less restrictive as well, because we've got some antiquated things on the books with the present permit, not that anybody's enforcing it, but we would have been in violation in some areas, so just saying that when that gets done, gets submitted, that's the time when you pull your old permit from 1993 and upgrade. So that'd be one of those things we were discussing earlier. And beyond that, it sounds like there's some office space opening up, so that David and I might be able to get in there at some point and just establish some record keeping, have a place for all that fun stuff related to parking. That was what I was reading into something. I don't know if that actually exists.
Sounds like there's space for a file cabinet.
Okay,
Sounds like there's a desk. It's used as a community desk and computer.
sounds good. And last, this is probably for Audrey to help me out with. I believe Jamie Colby had an interaction with emails with her at TDS.
Yes.
Tara seems to think that some of the information that was in that email was relevant to moving forward on constructing the operating plan and stuff. Any chance you could just forward that to me?
Yes, Nicola asked for them, so.
Oh, he's done too.
It's on my list.
Yeah, I think some of that came up in our
Yeah.
past meeting.
Yeah.
Great, appreciate it. That's it for me.
Anybody else? Tim?
Tim Murphy, Mountain Road. I'm glad to see you, our new chief. I haven't met you, I'm Tim Murphy, how you doing, buddy?
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. One of the issues I wanted to come tonight Well, I'm here because Mickey said we asked for evening meetings and nobody shows up. So here I am. All right, here I am. Fire calls. I missed part of your report there. All right, let me start this by saying, we had a meeting here when I watched operated as a detox opened up there. As you guys probably remember, we had the owner and the people, and the discussion was had about them handling their own emergency calls up there. I'm curious to know how much of a burden on our system the ambulance calls. I witnessed probably 3 times a week calls up to that mountain. Over and over. Yesterday it was 2 ambulances up there, but over and over, and it's not much different than when it was a head injury facility, if not worse. Well, that seems to be disproportionate with the normal residential burden on the system. When we talked to them and we had a discussion about them operating up there, they made assurances that they were gonna maintain their own EMTs up there. They were gonna handle their own security. I have a feeling none of that is in place. And I'm just curious as to whether that's something that needs to be looked into. Because it seems to me like there's an awful burden on our emergency services to cater to them. Up and off the back road at a facility that's making money off whatever goes on up there.
I'm gonna let Chuck answer this because Chuck negotiated contracts with them.
So 2 years ago, Ken, we actually did a contract with the previous owner, which basically says that our rate for the year under our ambulance budget, per call, they pay us a check. And right now, Audrey bills them quarterly for that. So, I believe it's in the range of 15 to 18 grand a year is what we're getting back on them.
Yep.
So,
Well, one thing that's all nice that we're receiving some compensation back from it. But it's also putting that ambulance and that emergency services up there tending to them when something could be going on with someone else in town. You know, what gets me, Chuck, is the fact that they sat here and told us all in the meeting we had that they intended to have EMTs on staff and their own security and just.
and I actually saw that video. That was one of the first videos I ever looked at in the selectmen, and I think it was the first one that's recorded up on our website. And as a result of the whole contract discussion we had, we actually contacted legal counsel, town council. And town council said no matter what was promised at that point in time verbally, we could not hold them accountable to it.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
So that was the reason we went after the contract, to basically say, hey, if the ambulances are going up that road, and
Right,
it's for you, then you're paying your portion of that ambulance, so it's not causing the taxpayer a problem.
oh yeah, we took them at their word and it's good faith.
So we basically are getting reimbursed on all the ambulance calls.
Okay, well, here, this is my second issue I came tonight to discuss. As well as the ambulance and police and everything else traffic that has to respond up there. They also have their own vans, and I actually called High Watch this weekend. Because in most times they're fairly respectful and they're fairly good about doing the speed limit, but they have an unbelievable amount of traffic with their vans back and forth on the mountain road. Usually with just one single person in the van. I have no idea why they need to go out so much from their facility. This past Saturday at 5 o'clock, I had one came down by our house doing, and no, I do not have the radar detector. But after 19 years of being there, I'm a pretty good judge of who's doing what. 50, 55, past our house. That's a 30-mile-an-hour zone. That's bad enough. Shake my head on that one. 2 minutes later, the same guy right back up towards Iowa in one of their vans. So I called up, and you might as well call a telemarketer back, because all I got was an answering machine go around being the weekend. On that answering machine, I told them that I was gonna approach the selectmen on Tuesday and the police department about their staff. It's bad enough we deal with the shift changes and the people 10 minutes late to work going up there, 60 miles an hour past my house. But their vehicles, it's getting a little ridiculous. Now, that being said, everybody on that road speeds. And it's my belief, and I've said this time and time again, and I've been in this room time and time again and requested it. We need speed patrols on that road. We need police sitting at the end of West Range Road. I've asked and asked, they could sit in my driveway. And my neighbor across the street, Mr. Parsons, will tell you the same thing. Where are they? A little deterrence would go a long way. The word get out. And once again, like a broken record, here I am. I could probably go back through the files and the videos and hear the same speech again. But where are they? We need speed enforcement on that road. We need just to get the word out, for them to come up and over their rise by my house, or up and over Washburn Hill, or any one of them spots, and it'd be bad. So they figure it out, that maybe it ain't a good idea to do that. Anywhere is the length of that road, correct, Vicky?
Correct.
And I understand it's an issue on all the roads around town, speeding, and all you gotta do is look in your rearview mirror and see them coming. And they're on your back bumper 5 minutes, and they come up here for peace and quiet, and to relax, but they're in a hurry to get to where they gotta go to do it. Well, regardless, it's just, I could tell you right now, if I did have a radar detector, 5 out of 10 cars that go by my house, 1 out of 2 cars is probably going up. Maybe not that much, but I bet 30% are doing 40+ miles an hour when they go by my house. And all over the mountain road. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. You guys see it when you drive around every day. We're
And
all
more
witness
on the
to it. We're all
weekends.
witness
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about more, wait till shift change at High Watch. 20 minutes before, and I've told the cops this, I told Joe Collins this back when he was a cop. Sit there half an hour before and half an hour after. Watch them come, watch them go. We can make all kinds of revenue for this town.
You mentioned it to the chief and see what he can do with his offices out there. I know they speed. I've been up there for the last 2 days, even with the construction going on.
What just happened?
The girl come flying up through there, cones, signs, flags, and everything, run right into Dale Smith.
That
Mine truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said her brakes failed.
Yeah.
Going uphill.
You gotta reach for them first.
But yes, and even with down one lane, speeding through there.
Oh, it's,
White things. Why don't they go the other way?
that's a point I've tried to make before. Why they need to travel so much up and out of that place,
You are aware they own a couple of housing facilities and condos, so one of the reasons that caravan comes down every day to bring people.
They don't need to go by my house to come to the
No.
farm.
They go by my house,
right.
they almost hit me twice.
No,
That's a little, they missed their mark if they're going by my house coming to the farm.
I wish I could say, yeah, they'll be out there tomorrow. But I don't know if they will be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know, and as bad as the road is.
I've never been one to invite cops around, but I'll tell you something. Bring 'em.
Well, try to fix you. We'll take care of you, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. service.
Won't be my first rodeo.
David,
Yeah, I got kind of a follow-up to what he was talking about. My question is this, I understand that the ambulance is being compensated for, our police and fire being compensated as well. Not part of the contract, because it's an emergency service provided by the town, and as a taxpayer, they get the service. Yeah, we got into that one, and we didn't know water on that.
Just see, you don't mind me saying, this is a point I brought up when we had our meeting with them way back when. They are a taxpayer. They pay taxes just like the rest of us on property, on buildings. They don't pay anything special for being a business operating up there. It's not like they're bringing us golden glory. But yet they're working it in. That former owner's sitting in a mansion down in Miami right now, trying to figure out what to do with his lawsuits. But he's sitting pretty, ain't he? You know, he fed us all a bunch of lines in here though, and then flew off into the sunset in his helicopter. But we're holding back. And our police are up there, and our fire department's up there, and yup, the ambulance, we're getting compensated. But when we do the ambulance contract again, all them calls figure into the, we use them calls to figure out the ambulance contract, don't we?
What part of a 6-town contract?
That's
based on
correct.
volume?
And the volume is what determines it.
But they're paying their share of the
Well,
volume.
then they should be removed from the volume into that ambulance, the calls for service, to lessen the burden on us. See, there again,
Tim, if we get rid of that contract, we're not gonna get it back. The new owners are international, they're a conglomerate. This is just one piece of their very large pie.
yeah,
And we were lucky at the time to be able to get the coverage of the ambulance calls up there and get it as a perpetual agreement. So it didn't, when Spofford sold out, the agreement automatically went to new owners. These guys sell out, it'll automatically go to new owners. So we actually put that in.
that's good that we did that, Chuck, but here's the thing. Are we being fairly compensated? And at the same time, what's that compensation worth? If you're up there dealing with somebody having a temper tantrum and somebody's having a heart attack on Province Lake, what's that compensation worth then? When our services are tied up there because of one of their paid for clients.
well, we have mutual aid, so.
Yes,
You know,
I
and then-
understand, and it's a thing called the golden hour.
Action has more than one ambulance.
Yeah, I know, I watched both of them walk the highway yesterday, one on the back front of the other.
Is it possible to take them off of our ambulance?
This is the point, yeah.
They're taxpayers.
Yeah.
We did, we searched this very, very thoroughly to figure out how we could get compensated. Right? And this was the one legal way we would do it, and they were willing to sign contracts, so we signed it as quickly as they were willing.
Probably a good move, I'm sure. It just seems to be an undue burden in light of the fact that they sat here and once again, unbinding, but they told us what we wanted to hear. That they were gonna have their own EMTs and they were gonna have their own security and a block facility, and don't you worry about nothing. Okay, hey, you know, in a perfect world.
Okay, Vicky?
I would just like to address Mr. Murphy. Is that right?
Yeah.
We live on Winter Road, so we're kind of neighbors. I have reported the vans to the police many, many times, and they have actually been around and taking a look at them.
Yeah.
They've almost hit me twice,
Oh, no doubt.
The me ones.
Yeah.
and Dave once, and, I mean, Winter Road is 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And they
I
glide,
know that they won't.
they,
I had to
Absolutely.
dive into a snowbank.
But, so the police are aware, And if you have a problem with them, please call the police, because the more we let them know, the better.
Yeah. Well, Joe's the chief, right?
Yeah, we can just call dispatch, at least that way they have a record of it.
I have his email if you want it.
I'll get all of them. No problem.
Yeah, when it goes into dispatch like that, kind of it's catalog, so they can begin to look at patterns, and when the patterns get bad, then they can actually even address it. So you know, when you stop somebody individually, you got X number of complaints around this issue. We'll have a discussion about that.
Yeah. Like, as you probably well know, some of those vans had paint all over them recently, and there's one with a pinstripe on the door.
Yes, the
That's-
old man drives that one, right?
Yep.
I know who he is.
That was
Got my
huge.
eye on him.
Yeah. He's literally 50, 60 miles an hour past my house.
I got him on my camera going by around that bell.
Anybody else have anything?
What's the dinner?
No, nobody on Zoom?
No.
Okay, we have to go into a non-public, so we won't be doing any work after that, so thanks for coming, everybody. Good
Thank
seeing
you
Mark.
for coming.
Looking
Yeah, good to see your face here.
Looking
Hope
good.
to see you again.
Good.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice week.
All right.
January,
Uh,
the time that the chip came from there,
I'm
and
not-
Make a motion to go in
Oh, geez.
non-public for RSA 91A32B.
Tyler's like,
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just
Yep.
ask them a question.
Go ahead and do that in public now.
I have a question.
You have something?
Do you mind, or you bring it home?
Okay.
You can probably do that.
There you go.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Okay.
Can you just close that door, Linda?
Yes, I will.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, Linda.
Come on up.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
I'd like to introduce Nicole, go ahead and sit down. Maltese. Good. Oh, let me stop the recording,
Nicole.
sorry.
Well, wait a minute, she's recording.
Hello, then.
Hello.
Met you Thursday, at planning board. Make a motion to come out of non-public.
Fuller second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And what about the minutes?
Yeah.
No, we- Okay, another motion,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry. I'll second it.
all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.